Running battles have continued between protesters and Iraqi security forces. They throw Molotov cocktails and rocks, and the police responds with tear gas and bullets. After the week-long deadline expired, they've been coming out in numbers to choke major highways. It's a simple strategy: disrupt life so people in power take notice. The Mohammed bin Qasim highway and multiple bridges across the capital have become battlegrounds. Although dozens have been wounded in 2 days of clashes, many here say they will fight until they see real change. Activists say government heavy-handedness and intimidation tactics only strengthen their resolve. These were the scenes in Basra. In 48 hours, the nationwide escalation has resulted in more deaths, over 100 protesters wounded, and a further 88 arrested in Baghdad, Diyala, Dhiqar, Karbala and Basra.
This was a very anticipated, a highly anticipated event here. The Russian President Vladimir Putin met with the new Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin and his newly formed cabinet that has been unveiled to Russia and to the whole world. Now, I should say that the Russian government has been given a proper shake-up, and we're already seeing plenty of new faces, but some of the old veterans and veterans in the most, in the true sense of this word, are staying and they are keeping their positions. For instance, the foreign minister will stay a familiar face. It will be still Sergei Lavrov, so all the foreign partners of Russia, they will still be talking to the
Lebanon's new Prime Minister Hassan Diab has finalized his cabinet lineup. It took weeks of political horse trading, even though those who were fighting over seats are allies and part of the ruling alliance. Diab's critics call him a pawn of the political elite, but addressing the nation, he tried to defend his cabinet at a time of mass protests over Lebanon's worst economic crisis in decades.
We will endeavor to answer their demands, to ensure that we have an independent judiciary, to bring back stolen money, to fight corruption, to protect the poorer social classes from high taxation, to tackle unemployment, and to put in place a new electoral law that brings everyone together under one national identity that the street has asked for.
The Deputy Director of China's National Health Commission, Li Bin, announced this morning that there are now 440 confirmed cases of the new coronavirus, and a total of 9 people have died. And fears are rising as the virus has now spread to South Korea as well as the U.S.
The new coronavirus strain that originated in the Chinese city of Wuhan has crossed the Pacific, with U.S. health authorities confirming the first case of the virus in the country on Tuesday. A man in Washington state first experienced symptoms after returning a trip to a region near Wuhan. He was hospitalized last week with pneumonia, but was later confirmed to have the Wuhan coronavirus. The virus has already spread beyond China's borders to South Korea, Thailand, Taiwan, and Japan, but it is the first time it has appeared outside Asia.
Floral tributes still hang by the roadside in Brumagino. The names of those who died still flutter on these ribbons. And anger at the Vale mining company still very much lingers, with this graffiti at the town's entrance accusing it of being a murderer. Nearly 12 months to the day since the tailings dam collapsed, state prosecutors in Brazil have taken action, charging Vale, its former boss, and the German inspection firm Tüv Süd. Prosecutors are adamant that Vale ignored the warnings it received from as early as November 2017 that the correct security standards weren't in place for the B1 dam to operate safely. And this was the devastating result on January the 25th last year, when the dam's rupture sent millions of tons of thick and toxic waste gushing over farmland and into homes.
We've been saying that future wars will be fought in space. It will be nothing like Star Wars, no dogfights, no ray guns. Space warfare will be about satellites and data. Today, every country is becoming more and more wary of protecting its interests in space, rather. The United States, Russia and China already have their space force. Last year, India announced that it has the capability to shoot down satellites from Earth. India has also set up a defense space research agency. It's been given the task of creating space warfare weapon systems and technologies. And now another country wants to join this club.
Japan is changing. And here's a big example. The pacifist country has announced a space defense force. Japan's Prime Minister said that the Space Force will protect Japan's interstellar interests. It will also defend the country against cyber threats.
We know we're constantly being watched, but by who? In a shock move, SA Health announced it's removing all cameras made by Chinese manufacturer Hikvision from hospitals and nursing homes across the state because of security and privacy concerns. The Chinese government owns part of the company, and there are fears the cameras could be used to spy.
All of these cameras are connected to computers that get fed into data farms that then can chop up and dissect all of this information and then repackage it for whoever is looking or, dare I say, spying.
Hikvision cameras can be found right across the city, installed at a number of residential complexes, hotels and along our most popular strips.
Now, India's Supreme Court has given the government 4 weeks to respond to more than 100 legal challenges to its new citizenship law. The Citizenship Amendment Act sparked weeks of protests across the country. It gives persecuted minorities from 3 neighbouring countries the right to apply for citizenship, but excludes Muslims. Critics say the legislation is discriminatory, and petitions were filed challenging its constitutional validity.
Nastasia, after 6 weeks of protests since the Citizenship Amendment Act was passed, the Supreme Court finally began to hear the petitions against the law. There were more than 140 petitions filed by all sorts of groups, civil society, human rights organizations, political parties, including the main opposition Congress and the Indian Union Muslim League.
Two grade R pupils have died at a primary school in Limpopo. A truck delivering food items crashed into a wall at Lekgolo Primary School, which collapsed onto the pupils. 2 other learners who sustained serious injuries have been rushed to hospital. That's in Gapane Hospital.